Hey, Scott Sampucci here over at Sales Qualia, and I'm coming to you live from Squaw Valley, Olympic Village, Olympic Valley. Here's why I'm doing this LinkedIn Live and subsequently probably put this on the podcast. I might even have to chop this into a couple of different episodes, a couple of different LinkedIn Lives. Over the last 6 months, since January 4th, I've been training for my next ultramarathon. And the ultramarathon I'm doing is the Western States 100. It's the oldest and probably arguably the most prestigious ultramarathon in the world. There's 7,000 people that wanted to get one of the 369 spots available in this race. I was fortunate enough to get a spot because of some work I've done out in the trails and in the ultra community, and their local running club. So here I am, 1 week away, just a week away. So I'm up in Squaw Valley. I've been coming up here over the last 2 weeks to get in some last minute training and running and some elevation and climbing and all that good stuff. And the reason I'm doing this LinkedIn Live and the reason I want to talk with you today is something that I've talked about quite a bit over the last couple of years, which is how much running a startup really is like running an ultra marathon. There's so many parallels that I see every single day when I'm out there training, when I'm out there racing, when I'm thinking about strategy, when I'm thinking about execution, when I'm thinking about what it takes to get through some of the, arguably like one of the most arduous physical tasks that somebody can put themselves through. And so what I've been doing is compiling a lot of notes over the last couple of months. And in this live or in this episode, what I want to do is just share a couple of what I call lessons from the trail that I hope will help you think about what it takes and what you need to do, especially on the sales side of things when it comes to your startup, to grow it, to scale it, to ultimately make the impact that you want to make. Because let's face it, as much as you're sprinting every single day, like you're sprinting on product releases, you're sprinting on the next hire, you're sprinting on getting to the next big sale, you're sprinting to get to the next funding round. Like everything feels like a sprint and you're constantly out of breath. And it's important to remember that while we're always sprinting, it seems like day to day, week to week, this journey that you're on is an ultra marathon. It's not something even with the next 2 week sprint, you're not going to be done. Even with the next sale, you're not going to be done. Even with the next hire, you're not going to be done. You're never going to be finished. And ultra marathons feel a lot like that. I mean, ultimately, there is a finish line in some of these races. Actually, some races that don't have a finish line, but that's a different story. But when you're talking about a 100-mile race that I'm going to be doing, or in some cases a 200-mile race a couple 200-mile races that I've done. I mean, these are long stretches to be out there. A 100-mile race, in this particular case, I'm hoping to get finished in under 24 hours so I can earn a silver buckle. They give you one whole silver buckle for finishing under 24 hours. I mean, of course, I want to finish the race, but I also want to push myself and see if I can finish in under 24 hours because I've never finished a 100-mile race in under 24 hours. And if I could do it on this race with the one shot in a lifetime that I have to do this race, ultimately, maybe one shot in a lifetime, I want to see how far I can push myself and how much I can accomplish. And that brings me to a couple of the lessons. So I've got some notes here on my iPad, so which means I got to put my glasses on to read those. And so I jotted down about 10 lessons. We won't get through all of them in this particular live or this particular episode. I'll just go for about 20, 30 minutes or so. And what I want you to do is, again, as I'm talking about the training and the lessons from the trail, I'm going to specifically relate these to how I feel like they relate to startups, and particularly selling, startup sales, because the work that you're doing every day, like I said, is like an ultra marathon. So think about how these might relate to you, to your company, to your team, to your startup, and I think you'll pull some lessons out and hopefully some applications of those lessons that you can put to work right away for your startup to help you grow and scale and make the impact that you want to make. So the first lesson that I wrote down is, and these aren't in any particular order, but the first one I wrote down is make hard things routine. Make hard things routine. So a couple examples from training that in terms of what I mean by making hard things routine. So I've been working with a coach over the last since late January. And one of the things he's had me do is at least 2 trail runs every single week. And then ultimately, as we got closer and closer, we moved up to 3 trail runs, meaning runs with climbs and hills and elevation change, as opposed to running locally on some flat terrain. And when I talk about making hard things routine, in terms of building out a schedule for myself, which I'll talk about later in another lesson, what I found is that Wednesday mornings tended to be the best time during the week to get in one of those two trail runs, with the second one being over the weekend on a Saturday in most cases. And when I talk about making hard things routine, that Wednesday morning, in order for me to make that happen, that means that the alarm goes off at 4 in the morning. I'm out of the house by 4:30, and I drive about 25 minutes to a place called Lagoon Valley, which is in Vacaville. It's the next 2 towns over from where I live in Davis. And there in Vacaville is basically the closest place where there are any hills to climb. And there's one hill that's about a mile and a half up. It goes up about 800 feet. So it's a pretty good little climb. And what I did almost every single week since January, every Wednesday, at least once a week, was go out there and do repeats. So I get out there. The goal is to hit the timer on my Garmin before 5 a.m. So I like to see 4:59 or 4:58 or 4:57 on the start time. Sometimes I don't make it. Sometimes it's 5:11 or something like that. But it's hard, right? I mean, you're getting up at 4, getting in the car, and I'm in January, February, March. It's cold. Sometimes it's raining. It's unpleasant. And I tell myself, I am doing this. This is my routine. It's a hard thing to get up out of bed and know that 4 o'clock is early in the morning, and that running up and down this hill 3 times, or in one case, one day I did 5 times in order to get some extra miles in. You're running up and then turning around and running down. And then you get back to the bottom, and that mile and a half up, mile and a half down. I hit the gate. I hit my timer to see what my lap time is. And then I go back up again, and then come back down, and then go back up again and come back down. And I'll see people out there walking or doing some hiking or doing some running on their own. And you sort of get to see the same people over the course of, every week and every month. You kind of get to know each other a little bit. And it's just funny because you see people climbing up to the top once and back, and I'm doing it 3 times. But the key here is that I just made this part of my routine. It's a hard thing to get up and do these repeats. It sucks. I mean, it just sucks. I feel great when I'm done, because I'm done and obviously full of energy. But then I got to get back in the car and hopefully get home before 7:45 in the morning so I could take my son to school. And that was my routine. But it's a good example of choosing something that is hard and turning it into something that's just accepted as a sort of a normal practice, right? Another example of making hard things routine is doing heat training. So because this race is on June 26th, we start up here in Olympic Valley, and you climb up over Squaw Valley, which is, if you're watching this, it's way back. The peak is way back there. Start at about 6,000 feet. You go up to 8,500 feet. And then once you hit the peak, then you start slowly descending until ultimately you reach a town called Auburn, California. Those of you in the Bay Area probably recognize Auburn because it's a relatively good-sized town on the way up to Tahoe if you're coming from the city on I-80. So it's 100 miles. And while it's a net downhill, there's lots of ups and downs. You're going down and then up over a climb, and then down and then up over a climb. And part of the race, the middle of the day, from about 12 noon till 5 in the afternoon, is through an area called the canyons. And the canyons are 100 degrees in the summer. Right now the forecast is 99 degrees for next Saturday. And so again, this idea of making hard things routine. So when living out in Davis, fortunately I have, and this is even just saying that, fortunately it gets really hot in Davis. So I pick days where I know it's going to be hot. And it could be days like on a Tuesday afternoon where I'm going to drop my son off at rock climbing, where he has an afternoon camp, and it's 4 in the afternoon, 4:30 in the afternoon. It's the heat of the day. And I check the clock or the weather, and I'm like, hey, it's going to be 95 degrees. That's awesome. So, I do my whole work day, and the last thing I feel like doing is a 7-mile run in the heat, but it's a hard thing, and I know I need to do it. Tomorrow is Friday, and it's going to be 105 or 102 in Davis. And I was talking to my coach yesterday, and he said, hey, make sure you get some heat training in tomorrow. I said, yeah, I checked the weather. It's going to be 102 tomorrow in Davis. It's going to be great. It sounds crazy, but that's the idea of making a hard thing routine, right? The same with training on elevation goals. So one of the things my coach said is like, I want you to get some weeks where you're doing at least 10,000 feet of climbing throughout the course of the week. So doing 3 trail runs, you can fit that in. But again, now it's not just Wednesday mornings, so I have to get up and early and do a trail run, but then it's like Wednesday and then Friday. So those are work days. Same thing, getting up early, sometimes doing repeats twice a week, or sometimes driving somewhere else where I can hit the trail. And then Saturday morning, finding enough trail, enough elevation, enough climbing so that I can hit 10,000 feet. But these became routine. And so I keep a log of my training. It's probably not surprising to those of you who know me. And fortunately, like going back to, when we talked about this in late April, hitting the 10,000 feet, I hit 11,001 foot. I hit 11,700 feet, 12,752 feet. Then I had a break, and then 11,000 feet, then a break down to 6,000, then 13,000. Then this past week was 6,300. So again, it's like I'd never thought that I could do that much climbing, that much trail work, that much running on a trail. But because it became accepted as routine, the hard thing became routine, right? So what does this have to do with sales, right? So there's some things around selling, especially as a startup, that are hard. They're just hard. There's no way to make them easy necessarily. There's no hack. I mean, I know there's like, oh, hack this, you can hack this growth hack and this and sales hack that and automate this and automate that. Like there's no easy path to doing hard things. There's no hack to doing some of the hard things. So examples of some of the hard things that you need to make routine are something as simple as doing 20 touches a day. This is something I've talked about in previous podcasts and LinkedIn Lives, which is like sitting down and saying like, I'm going to do my 20 every day. Your 20 could be 20 LinkedIn connection requests that you're sending out to people in your target market. Your 20 could be going through the email list that you have and sending out a personal note to those people. The 20 could be going through your marketing list and seeing who's opened, who opens more of your emails, who has a higher lead score, and sending 20 messages to them. 20 could be 20 emails out to investors, or 20 emails out to potential partners, or 20 emails out to potential recruits that you want to bring on. It's hard to do 20. I know, like I run a business and I tell myself every day I want to do my 20. Most days I don't get there. I don't get to 20, and it's hard to get to 20. But when I do get into that rhythm over the course of a week or a couple weeks or a month where I am able to do 20, some days I'm doing 25 or 30, other days I might fall back and do 10 or 15. But when I'm averaging those 20 a day, all of a sudden, like all kinds of magical stuff happens. More people show up to our live trainings and webinars. More people are booking in calls to learn about the program. Our new client acquisition, not surprisingly, goes up, right? There's this very strong correlation between that sales activity and in the front end of the funnel and the back end of the funnel. Another thing that's hard to do that you need to make routine is making cold calls. Like, if you're running a company, if you're a founder of a company, at some point you probably want to hire SDRs or BDRs, somebody that's going to be helping you with sales. And part of that is going to be running outbound. And you're going to say, hey, I'm going to hire an SDR or a BDR to help me with outbound. And part of that outbound is going to be doing cold calls. Well, you've got to do the cold calls yourself. You have to know what it takes to do that. You have to hear the responses from those prospects. You have to know what the objections are. You have to hear the language that other people are saying. You have to know how hard it is even just to make a connection. It's a hard thing to do cold calls and forcing yourself to do it and psyching yourself up to do it. But again, making that routine where you say like, look, even if it's not every day, it's like, hey, every week, Thursday morning from 8 to 10 is my cold call 2-hour block. And you block it out in your calendar and you get a list ready the day before and you sit down and you say, look, I'm going to do 20 cold calls in an hour and then take a 10-minute break and then do 20 more. So I've done 40 cold calls, and I guarantee you're probably going to book a couple meetings from that, first of all. But second of all, you're going to learn something really important, which is how that part of your system, your selling system, needs to run. Another thing that might be hard that you need to make routine is doing videos or doing live events, webinars, workshops, whether those are online or now in person as the world starts to open up more. A lot of people are scared to do video. They're afraid to put themselves out there. But you as a founder, you as a sales leader, you're the face of the company. People talk about being the face of the franchise. You're the face of the company. You need to create personal connection with your market. And so when I'm doing this live event right now on video, I remember a time where I was scared to do videos. I used to shoot videos and it would take me an hour to do a 3-minute video because I was scared to do it and it felt like it needed to be perfect. But now I've just done it so many times, it's like I don't even care if I screw up because it's become routine. And those hard things are one of the best ways for me to connect with the market, and one of the best ways for us to run trainings for our clients is through video, right? Another thing that might be hard to do is asking for the business, meaning like you've got somebody at the end of the sales funnel and it's easy to clam up and easy to be scared and fear that rejection. But it's a hard thing to ask for the business. You get to the client, you say, hey, are we at a place now where you're ready to go forward? Like, that's a hard question to get yourself because nobody wants to hear no or not right now or sounds expensive. But you have to get into the practice of doing that hard thing because that's what the business needs, right? I'm a fan of Jocko Willink. Some of you might know Jocko Willink. He's a retired Navy SEAL, and he's got a podcast and does consulting. And one of my favorite videos from him is a question that was asked to him, which is like, what do you do on those days where you're just not feeling it? You're just not up for it. You don't have the energy. You don't want to do it. And he laughed. He said, yeah, those days. What do I do on those days? I go anyway. And it's, in Jocko speak, it's typical Jocko Willink, which is like, I just go anyway, in that deep guttural voice. And he's right. I mean, those days, every day needs to be that routine where you're doing the hard things, even if you don't feel like doing the 20 touches, even if you don't feel like doing the cold calls on Thursday morning, even if you don't feel like doing a video. You've got to make these hard things routine. Because when you make the hard things routine, now you're elevating the bar, the minimal standard that's acceptable for you and your company. And most of all, by doing the hard things, you're going to get the results that you need to get. You're going to get more leads in your funnel. You're going to get more business that's going to convert, right? You're going to build your marketing list by doing the videos and connecting with more people on LinkedIn. So all I can say is, the hard things are hard for a reason. There's no easy hack around, doing videos or hiring somebody to do outbound and just not doing it on your own, or hiring somebody to do the videos for you so that you don't have to do it, or, hoping that the client, the customer, the prospect is going to tell you that they're ready to get started without asking for the business. So make the hard things routine because the business needs it. You need to do the hard things in order for the business to move forward. So that's lesson number 1. I'm going to do maybe one more and then we'll call it a day here. So lesson number 2, and like I said, I've got 10 of these, so we'll probably chop these up into a number of episodes so that not too long and not too overwhelming. You can sort of piece through them and share them, the ones that are appropriate with your team. And by the way, if you're a sales founder and you're a startup CEO founder and you're looking for some help with sales, you just need to get an adjustment to your mindset, or you need to get a path or a structure or a framework on how to do some of these hard things. Maybe there's something that the team and I here at Sales Quality can do to help. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I want to do the hard things, I'm up for doing the hard things, I just need a little help with this, or I just need somebody to take a look at what we're doing and what can we do to make sure we're doing the hard things effectively, then I would encourage you to either send me a DM if you're watching this on LinkedIn, or if you're listening to this in the podcast, just shoot me an email, scott@salesqualia, QUALIA.com. And you just type the word private into the subject. Just let me know you want to have a quick chat with me or somebody on my team. And we'll just kind of talk through where you're at and what you need. What's your situation right now and how can we help you? What do you need in order to move the business forward? So take that action. And I know that can be hard. You're sitting there like, I don't know. Like, I've seen this guy on LinkedIn. I've seen his videos. He sounds like he knows what he's doing. It seems like he helps startups just like me. But do I really want to ask for help? Asking for help is a hard thing. It is. Most people don't do it. The ones that do it get the help. And the ones that get the help are able to move forward. So that's my challenge to you. If that seems hard to you, maybe that's exactly the reason why. Exactly the reason why you should ask for the help if it seems hard. Okay, so let's do number 2, and then we'll wrap up here. So number 2 is, that I wrote down, is preparing to train. Preparing to train. So most people think of training as the thing you do to prepare for the race, which is obviously what you got to do. I actually think about, how do I prepare to do the training as a key takeaway, as a key learning, a key lesson from the trail. So as examples of this for me are like number one is like I talk about these trail runs I do on Wednesday and Friday and Saturday. Get up really early, get out, hit the trail, make sure I get back in time during the week to help out at home and get my son to school. On the weekend, I want to get back at a reasonable time so I can spend time with my family. I don't want to spend all day out on the trail. I want to try to get back before noon or 2 p.m. so we still have the rest of the day together. And so one of the things that I've got to do in order to prepare to train is the night before, I'm getting all of my gear ready and put into the front of our house. So I've got a gear bag, get my running shoes, my socks. I get all of my nutrition, my water bottles are all filled up, ready to go. Coffee pot is made so that in the morning I wake up, turn the coffee pot on, get myself ready, get myself dressed, do some stretching in the house and get the heck out of the house. So I'm not like rooting around like, oh, where's my water bottle? Where are my shoes? Oh crap, where are my socks? Are they still in the laundry? Like preparing to train is so important because you've got to be able to just go when it's time to go and be efficient with that training. The same with Friday nights, especially, if I'm doing a long trail run on Saturday, a long trail run could be anywhere from 15 to, I've done as many as 50 miles. A 50-mile training run is part of this training regimen. And one of the things that it means preparing to train is also knowing like when do I got to get to sleep that night and working backwards from there. Knowing that, okay, if I'm going to get up at 3:45 in the morning on a Saturday, so I can get out of the house by 4:15, so I get to the trail by 6, so I can run for 5 hours and get home in time for at noon. Like, what time do I got to get to bed? Well, I probably get to get some decent sleep. I want to get 7 hours of sleep. It means I got to get to bed, at best by 8 o'clock or 8:30, right? So if I get to bed by 8:30, that gets me about 7 hours of sleep. I'd love to get more, but that's about what my life enables me to get. So I've worked backwards from there. It's like, okay, well, if I want to be asleep by 8:30, then what time do we have to have dinner as a family so that I can get the kitchen cleaned up and I can spend time with my son and watch Mythbusters with him, or take the dog for a walk and hang out at the dog park with my wife and son and our dog. I got to like map that stuff backwards, right? I can't be sitting around at 6:30, 7 o'clock going like, oh, I wonder what we're going to have for dinner tonight. So I'm thinking about what we're having for dinner in the morning on Friday. That means, taking something out of the freezer so that it's easy to cook, and then taking the initiative to cook dinner and get that ready and do the dishes and be ready to go and get my routine. So like those are ways to prepare to train. And I think a lot of times when they're doing the sales work, I think a lot of times we don't spend enough time preparing for what needs to happen to be successful. So that may mean like blocking time to rehearse your demo. So yeah, you got this big demo coming up in 2 weeks with the Fortune 500 company. Like, are you blocking time to rehearse the demo? Like going through it. What is the script? What are you going to say? What are you going to show? Right? That's an example of preparing for the call. It's not just being ready at the call and like, okay, I'm focused, I'm ready to do the demo. It's what preparation have you done going into that demo? Have you done the discovery calls that you need to do? Did you make sure that you have all the right people in the room when you're showing the demo? Did you do your account research? Did you block out time? Like blocking out time to rehearse is just as important as rehearsing, because it's easy to say, well, I'll make sure I spend some time rehearsing the demo. I'll make sure I spend some time doing some account research. The first step to doing that is going into your calendar and blocking out the time. Because when you're running a startup and the whirlwind and the tornado of every day happens, days go by and weeks go by. And now that demo that was, it's 2 weeks away, I'll have plenty of time to do account research or do the rehearsal. Now it's the night before and you're like, crap, I didn't get to any of that stuff. So preparing to train means blocking out the time, making sure your team knows when those times are going to be so they can either join you or don't bother you and don't book stuff over that. That's an example. Sending connection requests to people that are going to be in the meeting. That's like a way to prepare them for that relationship. Practicing, identifying what are some of the objections that we think we're going to get in the demo. Let's write those down and let's write out in writing how we would respond to that. So we have some script, and then let's practice those. So the preparation to do the work is just as important as the work itself. You might have this great system for running your demos. You might, we know what those kind of companies are going to want to see, and we'll show them this, and they're going to love that feature, and then we'll see if we can get them into a POC. but doing the work ahead of time and blocking out the time is the form of preparing to train. So these are just two of quick examples of lessons from the trail. So I think this is a good spot for me to kind of wrap up here for this. So I'm going to do a couple more of these going forward. And again, in the meantime, like number one, if you're listening to this on the podcast and you haven't already subscribed, then you should definitely do that. We're pumping out lots of episodes every week. Sometimes it's episodes that we're taking from these LinkedIn Lives, and other times it's interviews with experts in the field of sales or hiring or startups. Number two, again, like I said, a few minutes ago, if you feel like you want some help getting some more structure, this idea of like, how do I get the structure in place so that I can execute on the sales and growth that I want to get to, then there's a good chance that if you're a B2B startup, founder selling to the enterprise, and you're looking to ramp up and scale up sales, there's a pretty good chance that we might be able to help you out at least with a couple of ideas. So if you want to have a quick chat, or you want us to take a look at your situation and make a couple of recommendations, then just shoot me an email, scott@salesqualia.com. Or if you're listening or watching this on LinkedIn, you shoot me a DM. Same thing. I'll make sure to get it, and we'll hop on a call and help you move forward, help you go farther with the business, help you ramp up, scale up, and make the impact that you want to make. So, all right, that's it for now. I'm going to sign off. This is Scott Simbuch at Sales Qualia. Make sure you do go farther each and every day, and have a good one. We'll talk soon.